Hey Taurus, so it's me Alexis. Welcome back to my astrology channel, and this is going to be your horoscope and tarot reading for the full moon in Pisces on September 13th/14th. So yeah, I already got your cards filled out or drawn out, and I just want to let you guys know that I do offer like personal new and full moon readings also. So if this video really resonates with you, but you really want a personal take on how this full moon will affect you, like go ahead and DM me on my Twitter, and I will go ahead and get you that reading. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of talk about the general astrology first, and then how it personally affects you, and then get to the tarot reading. So Taurus, with this full moon, I really feel like this full moon is going to be a lot more intense than the new moon that happened earlier, just because there is a T-square that's going on right now. And let me tell you who's in this T-square, like who's in this little group beef going on. So the Sun and Mars are going to be conjunct during this full moon. Like they were also conjunct in the new moon. Thought that was kind of significant. And then Mercury and Venus are going to be conjunct to each other in Virgo also, and at 29 degrees. They're about to go into Libra. And then the moon and Neptune are going to be conjunct during this full moon also. So when I see that, I think of like a lot of feelings and a lot of ambiguous feelings. Like I kind of think of like, feelings becoming so expansive to where like you don't really know what they are. And then also a player in this full moon event will be the transiting Jupiter in Sagittarius. And with all that together, with the Sun and Mars, and then the Moon and Neptune, and then Jupiter, it all makes a nice little T-square, which is, a little bit tense. So with that, I think the overall theme of, this full moon is that, the world is not going to make sense sometimes. It's going to be a little bit ambiguous. And a lot of this, full moon event is really focused on helping you know where to focus and how to focus. Because if I kind of like looked at the signs in terms of like magnification, like Virgos are really like microscopes. They can look at every little detail. Sagittarius, they're more of the open. They're kind of like out in the terrain. I think of like a landscape when it comes to Sagittarius, so like a more blown out view. And then for Pisces, it's just like blur, like a lot of blur. And because there's a lot of blurs, it's kind of like it's like a big question mark. And because of that, I think this full moon is really going to help all of us kind of figure out like, hey, we don't really know everything that's going on in the world, and that's fine. Like, and sometimes ambiguity can kind of give us new truths. We don't have to know everything to know the truth. You don't have to acquire like all the facts to get the truth. Sometimes not knowing anything could get you the truth too, because I think, in my opinion, no matter what happens, if the truth was really meant for you, it will come to you in any circumstance. And I think, with these three signs like Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, I think that really fits with the picture. So yeah, Taurus, how this will personally affect you. This full moon is going to be happening in your 11th house, and then Jupiter is going to be transiting your 8th house. So when I think of the 11th house, I think of friendships, I think of community. How you kind of belong in a community is also, a strong feeling that I get from the 11th house. And just how you kind of like, how you kind of conduct yourself in a group situation. So what I see here is that, with this, with the community aspect going on, I wouldn't be surprised if you kind of felt like the nature of your friend groups is starting to blur a little bit, or you kind of feel like, your sense of belonging is starting to feel like really ambiguous. You kind of feel like you don't quite know where you are. You feel like you're in one group one moment and then another group the next, and then you may think that you belong to a certain group one moment, but then you realize like, oh, I'm not really as close to these people as I thought I were. And you have a lot of like planets going on in your 5th house, so like a lot of what you've been focused on earlier is just really honing in on what really makes you happy, and really getting the details and being really realistic with what brings joy to your life. And then with the whole belonging aspect, it's it's kind of ambiguous at the moment, and because of that, I think that ambiguity could either make you feel a little bit lost or a little bit isolated or alienated in a sense. But at the same time, like in that alienation, in that ambiguity, you kind of know like, oh, okay, this is where I really belong. Now with the square to Jupiter in your 8th house, the 8th house is kind of the planet, not the planet, the house of finances in terms of like other people. So like debt, death is also in this house, and I think of taxes. And another way that I kind of look at the 8th house is kind of like power dynamics between people, because you know, when you do have a debt with someone, like if you owe someone money, they do have some sort of power over you. So when I kind of think of this, I think of like power struggles and power dynamics in your, you know, relationships. And with Jupiter, you know, transiting through your 8th house, I feel like you've been having a lot of opportunities in terms of like manifesting and honing like your power when it comes to those power dynamics, and really just, you know, having a sense of security with other people. But then with the ambiguity with your 11th house, you know, you kind of feel like you don't really belong, or you don't really quite know where you belong, which can kind of threaten your sense of security with other people in relationships, which is your 8th house. And then on top of that, with all the Virgo planets in your 5th house, like you've been micromanaging like how to enjoy yourself and like empowering yourself. So like, you know, in grounding yourself and really just being practical with how you enjoy yourself, like you've been focusing less on like, you know, having that strong, you know, opportunity to have, you know, stronger power dynamics in your favor with the transiting Jupiter. That's why the T-square is going on right now. So for you, Taurus, I think, you know, your issue here, I think like this full moon kind of is associated with people. And I think for you at the moment, you're sitting here like, okay, should I really focus on how I belong to other people, or whether I'm relevant to other people? Or should I focus on, you know, being practical and realistic with myself and how I, you know, enjoy life myself? Or should I really just focus on how to maintain healthy control with other people in my relationships, like with debt, literally, or like with like power struggles? So a lot of this seems to be about grounding yourself in your life where there's people around, like grounding yourself in situations where people are present. I think that is something that you're really struggling to really focus on during this full moon. I think this full moon is going to help you by making you realize that like, hey, you know, you don't really know where you belong, but I think because you may not know where you belong, or because there isn't really a sense of grounding there, I think you're gonna get some, you know, truth shed onto you. So yeah, Taurus, that is going to be your full moon horoscope reading. Let me go ahead and kind of see what the cards have to say. Yeah. Okay, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, Taurus, here's your cards. I got the Hermit reversed, King of Swords reversed, Wheel of Fortune. So it's a mixed bag. Let me tell you what you gotta work on first. So when I see the Hermit reversed, I kind of see a person that is trying to use other people to distract themselves, or at least not doing some like introspective soul searching. And I think that this Pisces new moon is going to drive you to do this anyway, just because, you know, like I said earlier, like this Pisces full moon in your 11th house may kind of show you that like, you know, I really don't know where I belong, and because of that, I don't really know what to do. And you know what you gotta do? Introspect. And this Hermit reversed is telling you like you haven't been doing that lately, and it's time that you do it. It's time for you to be the Hermit. It's time for you to know yourself well by yourself. Now, I will say that there's a caveat though, because you do have the Ten of Swords reversed. I mean, when I think of this, I think of your 5th house and how it's ruled by a bunch of like Virgo, and a lot of Virgo planets are, you know, flying through it right now. And I think this is also like I guess a tip from my decks telling you guys that, you know, it's okay to be practical, it's okay to be realistic, it's okay to kind of be on top of things when it comes to what you enjoy in your life, so like your hobbies and stuff like that. But sometimes too much structure and too much, you know, I don't know, a lack of trust in how you enjoy yourself can actually backfire. When I see the King of Swords reversed, I think of a person who is not truly mentally confident to the point where they'll try to like assert some mental authority over themselves or other people to get that sense of structure when it's not really there. Because, you know, if you have to say that you're an authority for something, like that kind of shows to me that like it could be torn down, because true authorities don't have to say that they're authorities. Oh, you know what, Taurus? I think that's a good quote for you. If you have to tell people, if you have to tell like all sorts of people that you are the authority of your life, like, you know, are you really? If you are truly the authority of your life, if you're truly in control of your life, you don't need to tell people. People will know. They'll figure it out. If they don't figure it out, then you could tell them. But, you know, Taurus, you're a grounded sign. Most people will probably figure it out, whether you're in charge of your life or not. And I guess with so many, I guess like with these houses being involved, like with people, maybe the underlying message is that, like, you know, maybe your goal here is that, you know, no matter where you go, no matter who you're with, whether you're by yourself or, you know, your friends or whatever, or a group of people or maybe one other person, at the end of the day, you really do want to be grounded. And I do think that you will ground yourself, because I do see the Wheel of Fortune, and my deck is kind of telling you, like, hey, you know, it's in your best interest to do this. It's in your best interest to kind of, like, you know, ground yourself, because, you know, with the Wheel of Fortune, I kind of think of, like, good luck, or, you know, something good is about to happen. So looking at that, I would say, Taurus, you know, a lot of this full moon is about you trying to feel, not only like ground yourself with other people, but also knowing yourself too. So I feel like, you know, a lot of this is about self-discovery, you know, solitude, introspection, and then, you know, not being too hard on yourself, and then ultimately, you know, fulfilling that silent authority over your life. And I think that with this full moon in Pisces, I think the ambiguity of how you feel when you know, belong or don't belong to certain types of groups will drive you to, you know, help you do that. So, yeah, Taurus, that is your full moon reading in Pisces. I hope that everything resonated with you guys, and I hope that you guys have a great full moon.